Hi, thanks for watching. Okay, just as a follow-up to this last video I just did on Scientology, I just have kind of a question, something I just want to think about, and maybe other people to think about. Um, just a question: as I think about Scientology, and I think about this daunting obstacle that Scientology has, like religious protection under the First Amendment. Okay, as I reflect on that, and as we all reflect on that. Okay, and obviously we're in the United States. Religions have tremendous protections. It's always going to be hard to go after religion, but at least should we not, as people in the United States and in other countries, should we not consider the possibility that sometimes what appears to be a religion is not really a religion? Okay, in other words, can you have something that sort of uses the appearance of being a religion, but uses the appearance and the features of a religion as a way of protecting itself from liability? Okay, in other words, can we talk about maybe the possibility that some organizations are operating as sham religions, like fake religions? Basically, they're not really religions. Okay, now, that's an arbitrary distinction, and I think as we define the First Amendment presently in the United States, you probably couldn't really. It would probably be very hard to have a legislation that identifies sham religions or fake religions. Okay, at some point, I think people are going to argue that you can't really try to define where a religion becomes fake, just because there are so many ways to have a belief system, or so many versions of belief systems or organizations, that it's going to be really hard. But I think as a public, regardless of the Constitution, I think we should raise awareness, okay, that some organizations use the appearance of a religion, or they use the features of a religion as a way of protecting them from normal liability that other organizations would have. And so when I look at Scientology, there's a couple of things that scream out to me that it's not really a legitimate, genuine, authentic religion. Okay. Now they do have a belief system. All right. Now you can't argue. They do have a belief that our bodies are not the end of our spirit. Okay. So now you have to give them that credit. Okay. They do have a belief system that is, I think, genuinely religious. Okay. But I think as you look a little more deeply into their practices, you see that the thrust of their operation is to gather money and to collect money. Okay. And that is really kind of, regardless of their beliefs, it's sort of like the main operating objective is to just extract a lot of money. And the second thing is that the value of the services that they provide, okay, doesn't really match to me with what they're asking their customers to pay. In other words, I think that the way they price their services, I think, is maybe way higher than the actual value that they offer. So I think as we look at like the possible markers of a sham religion or a fake religion, I think, even though they may have a belief system, because anybody can have a belief system, okay, you can start to look at like the signs of abuse, or like, say, unconscionable treatment, which may involve, very low quality services, and maybe charging people a very large amount for things that aren't really worth what they're charging. Okay, so that's one feature. The second feature is if the basic overall operational purpose of the organization is really more towards gathering money than it is towards trying to benefit the public. And I mean, that's a very kind of a delicate diagnostic. But I think in a case like Scientology, you can look at the organization and see that their basic purpose is more to make money than it is to actually provide benefit in the world. Okay, that's effectively what you see, is more of an emphasis on making money. And secondly, the services that they provide, they may be somewhat valuable, but the question is how do you price them? I mean, if you're going to ask somebody to go to a seminar or go to a counseling session, the going rate for counseling in the United States is like, say, 70 to 150, maybe even $200 an hour. Well, then look at how much they're charging at Scientology and compare that to something that's like, say, the equivalent, like, say, in the regular market. And I think you might find that what they're charging for their courses, for their training, for their auditing sessions and all that, it may be maybe way more in price than the value you're actually getting as a customer. So in a sense, I think at the very least, I think religion should be put to the same standards that we apply to, let's say, in the world of consumer protection. Okay. I think religions should be held to the same standard that other companies are held to when it comes to consumer protection laws. Selling, let's say, products that don't really have a lot of value, but charging a ton. And maybe we ought to look at consumer protection laws as like a way to go after, like, say, fake religions or sham religions, where they're just using sort of the appearance of religiosity as a way of protecting themselves, and allowing them to commit basically abusive practices, or unconscionable practices. So now, granted, the way the First Amendment is set up, it's going to be really hard to set up that kind of legislation. But, as the way I look at it is, even the Constitution can be amended, and I think at least in the United States, I think we should at least have conversations, even if we're never successful. We should at least talk about and raise awareness about when a group can use sort of the appearance of a religion, okay, and use sort of the cloaking of a religion as a way of sort of protecting itself, when they're not really, and they're not really essentially a religion. Okay, they may have a belief or two. They may have some practices, but at the fundamental, let's say, the fundamental purpose and the fundamental operation of the organization is more about making money and exploiting people than it is about benefiting people or giving them even fair value. And as far as I'm concerned, I think it should be suspicious when anything that calls itself a religion and wants nonprofit protection, okay, is essentially committed to making huge profits off people. That should be a big sign. Anytime a religion is taking a lot of money out of people, whether it's through a lot of tithing or, or a lot of like charging a lot for their services, I think that should immediately be suspicious. I think, at least in the United States, I think we should wonder whether a legitimate religion, should be truly nonprofit and truly dedicated more to service and to providing benefit to its customers, let's say, as opposed to extracting a lot of money out of them. So, as far as I'm concerned, I think it's a very big sign, I think it's very suspicious whenever a religion is, like, say, charging money for anything, okay? But if they are going to charge money for anything, how much are they charging? Is it even remotely within how much the value that they're providing? Or is it excessively higher than the actual value that they're actually providing? And then if they do claim, let's say, that their therapy or their auditing actually provides value, then they ought to be obligated to justify and prove the actual value of their services. In other words, they need to allow independent researchers to go in and do studies and actually confirm the value of their products. If their auditing is so powerful and so effective, they ought to at least allow independent people to verify the value of their services. Okay. And I think that, as long as they're going to hold, like, say, a monopoly on and not allow other people in to, like, say, examine their services, and then at the same time overcharge people like huge amounts of money for their services, I think there should be consumer protection laws in place to actually question that and actually challenge that. I don't think a religion can just use the fact that it's a religion just to charge whatever it wants for a service that hasn't been independently verified as having value. So, an organization that calls itself a religion that isn't willing to follow those guidelines, I think, should be, at least in an ideal world, they should be subject to being called a fake religion or a sham religion. And I think that we need to raise more awareness in the United States, even though the First Amendment, as it's written today, is probably a daunting obstacle. Probably, we're probably not going to get over that too easily. I think we should at least talk openly about how a religion can operate in a way that it shouldn't be treated as a legitimate religion. Okay. And I think, again, the biggest warning sign for me is when a religion is charging for its services, and then how much they're charging for its services. So, that's a big thing. And also when a religion becomes overly focused on getting a lot of money, as opposed to being a truly nonprofit organization. And I think that applies even to the Mormon Church. But just putting it out there. And I think that at the very least, if a religion is going to charge for its services, I think consumer protection laws should be strong enough to actually require the religions to allow independent researchers to come in and verify the value of the services they're offering. So otherwise, I think, the concept of a sham religion should be valid. So anyway, just an idea, and just putting it out there, and thanks for watching.